I'm pleased to be joined on Primetime Local News today by a familiar face to our newsroom in Lloydminster. Adam MacVicar is here today. Adam, of course, worked with us a while back and has since moved on to a career and is now at Global Calgary. Adam, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, Adam, the reason that we're chatting with you is because just recently you were sent down to the U.S. to cover the election down there. Now, tell me how that happened with your role at Global Calgary.
So we sent a whole team down. Global National sent an entire team down to different cities across the U.S. I believe Portland. We had some people in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and of course Washington, D.C. And our team locally was sent to Minneapolis, and I had the opportunity to join along on that team with Heather Yerkes-West, and we were sent to Minneapolis to tell the stories from the perspectives of that city. So overall, a pretty wicked opportunity.
And now going to the U.S. obviously is a whole issue in itself now with COVID happening. How did you guys get there? Did you fly? Did you drive? And what were some of the parameters that you had to deal with heading down there?
Well, we brought a lot of equipment with us when it comes to, cleaning and hand sanitizer and masks. We drove down to avoid any conflicts or anything with flying, any potential risks there. We drove down through Montana and into North Dakota into Minneapolis. It was about an 18-hour drive. We split up amongst 2 days, and we ended up driving through two states that are really being hampered by COVID-19 right now. So we tried to be as safe as possible, washing our hands often, wearing masks often, even just the single one-time use masks, wearing them for maybe 5 minutes to run into a gas station, just taking all the necessary steps to make sure we were okay as we traveled through those states being heavily impacted right now.
Now, once you got to Minneapolis, how did you have a plan? Did you have something that was set up ahead of time as to what stories you were going to do? Or did you get there and you were just going to try and get the feel of what was happening within the city? How did that all play out, Adam?
We actually had a couple of stories lined up. Heather had spoken to a few people in Minneapolis for a few different stories that we were hoping to cover, while also kind of taking the general feel of the city for as we headed towards the election. So we did have a few stories lined up, some interesting stories about African American voting, as well as the fallout from the killing of George Floyd, and exactly what that police department looks like now, 6 months after the fact.
Now, what was the reception when you were down there by the people of Minneapolis? Was it indifferent to having you there? Did you find them overly friendly? Or what was it like when you were dealing with the people and trying to get the interviews down there, coming in, kind of as an outsider from Canada?
Honestly, I think that came that came as a benefit to us. People did approach us every once in a while and just kind of asked, "Hey, what channel are you with?" And we explained, "Oh, we're journalists from Canada covering the presidential election down here in Minneapolis." And typically, after explaining we were a Canadian outlet, or the reception was quite good. People in Minnesota are notoriously friendly, and that rang true during our whole trip down there. Everyone was very kind to us, and we didn't encounter any issues with anybody regarding our storytelling or our presence there.
And what was the concerns, or some of the concerns that you had? Because obviously there had to be, given the things that have happened down there, some thought about safety and procedures and what you were going to encounter. So were there ever times where things were a little bit dicey for you and Heather, Adam? Or was it pretty much kind of smooth sailing, but with caution?
The trip was overall, looking back now, very smooth sailing. Obviously, on the way down, you fear kind of the unknown. So the immediate concerns were, COVID-19. Minneapolis is about a million. Minnesota rather is about 5 million people, so about 1 million more people than Alberta. And when we were down there, they were recording around 3,000 cases per day. And when we left, actually, they broke in the 5,000 case per day mark. So COVID-19, trying to make sure we were safe around that was obviously the number one concern, but also the reaction to what the election result would be was relatively unknown at the time. So when we started to notice very quickly that there was a lot of businesses in the town that boarded up their windows, and that seemed to progress throughout the week. But overall, everything was smooth sailing at the end of the day.
Now, I was watching some of the stories you were posting on your social media, Adam, and I know that you were literally in the area where the George Floyd incident happened, and a lot of the protests and fires and that sort of thing. What was it like being down there after having seen what happened, you know, through previous news stories on television, and then you guys actually to be in that same location?
It was definitely an interesting and very fascinating experience to be down there, just to see the fallout of that situation and exactly what that area looks like now. I mean, the area where George Floyd was killed is now a whole city block. It's a giant memorial. And the community is kind of taken back. It was described to us as an autonomous zone. And so there are no police allowed in, and it's more of a community gathering place now for many people. They hold community dinners at night. There's a medical area. There's a book share and a toy share, and it's a very interesting memorial. It was a very heavy experience too, understanding what happened there. It's just 6 months ago, sparking movements internationally, including where I'm at here in Calgary. And to be at that spot was a very heavy moment for sure. But yeah, very fascinating experience to see exactly what happened to this area after all the news cameras left, after the story kind of ended in Minneapolis. What was happening there during this time? It was very interesting.
Well, Adam, we really appreciate you talking to us today about your experience. Is there anything from the whole trip overall that you really kind of sticks out for you as one of those moments that you will always remember?
We met a few great people. I think it was the people that were the best part about this trip. In our interviews, we met a father and son who the son was going to be voting for the first time at the age of 18 years old. He was just turning 18 the day before the election, and he was so proud to take his son. We met a restaurant owner who had trouble with the law and was acquitted, and now runs a vegan soul food restaurant. We met a city councilor and a person who volunteers with a group called Mad Dads, who patrol the streets downtown as more of an outreach in kind of partnership with the police department. So there was a lot of very interesting people that we ended up meeting down there, and that was ultimately the best part about the whole thing, was the people.
Well, Adam, once again, thanks for joining us today, and congratulations on being selected to cover the U.S. election. That's a really fantastic for your career, and we wish you the best of luck in the future. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing you doing more national reporting and maybe possibly international in the future. So thanks again, and please stay in touch.
I appreciate it, Stacey. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.